Good evening. Thank you for joining me on another edition of Technology Access Television. My name is Bruce Montgomery, and we're going to continue our exploration of this fascinating area called blogging and blogging on the WordPress platform. As you know, we've got a great community that's been established here in Chicago. Chicago is really stepping up to be one of the centers of the WordPress universe. A lot of smart people here dealing with themes and plugins and exactly what this platform is all about. But you know, you have to kind of start somewhere, and our guests today are going to talk about how they got drawn into this blogging experience, a lot of times not with a lot of intention, but it turned out to be a good experience, and some folks are still at it and actually turning it into some growing enterprises. My first guest today is talking about something that most of us in Chicago, I don't know if we love it or we love to hate, but it's certainly no shortage of good conversation going on about the Cubs. And my guest today is Bullpen Brian, who's one of the top bloggers talking about, yes, those guys from the north side, the Cubs. And this is going to be their year, and he's going to be the guy who's going to tell us how to take it all in and have a great time doing it. Brian, thanks very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Bruce.
Well, you know, it is very interesting how, you know, you think back, when was the first time I ever heard about WordPress or heard about blogging? And you don't really know if it was a good or a bad situation. And you never maybe even thought you'd be involved with it. And then you look up one day and all of a sudden you're one of these notorious bloggers. How did you become a notorious blogger in your own right?
Well, the way it started out for me, I was working on sports radio and loved it. However, because of the way things were going in the economy, I lost my job and ended up basically trying to find a way to express my opinion on sports without having a platform. And so I looked into...
Didn't feel like staying up on 720 or 670 all night waiting to get in on a line.
Yeah, there was already a line to get up there. So I needed another platform. And when I started doing research on blogging, I wouldn't say I fell in love with WordPress, but I was really just surprised at how simple it was to post information, get it up quickly, and make it look professional. And what's happened is now that the blog's more than 3 years old, I've absolutely fell in love with WordPress. And I think I'll continue to as new versions come out and as I learn more as well.
Now, when you were in radio, what did you do in radio?
Well, I was working in sports radio basically as a talk show guy and doing play-by-play. And that was a passion of mine for a long time. That started to change as this blog grew, and I found out that I could still interact, not necessarily with callers, but people that would comment on the blog, that I had my own platform and could do it daily. On the side, it's a blog now that has started to make money as well. Mm-hmm. So not full-time, but perhaps in the future it could be.
Now, have you know, the Cubs are kind of like, you know, America's team. I mean, they're fans all over the place. Whenever the Cubs are traveling somewhere, it almost seems like there's many Cubs fans, except maybe when they go to New York or something, yeah. But it's just Cubs fans everywhere. Have people sought out your site from all over the internet and really all over, or is it pretty much local?
Well, they have. I've really been surprised at where people have logged in from. In fact, if you go to bullpenbrian.com and you go to the bottom right-hand corner, what I have there is a block that will show you where the latest visitors are from.
Okay.
And they're from all over the country, a lot of them from Chicago, of course, but many coming from Florida, I think during spring training, and the baseball fans at the bottom of the states, and also in Arizona, where the Cubs have their spring training complex at, but really from all over the country. And I think part of that is the reach that the Cubs had from television as well, being on a superstation.
Now, when you got started, were you just thinking that, well, you're going to comment and give your own opinion about, you know, kind of where the team is headed and you know, the kind of decisions management and coaches are making, talk about some of the player concepts? But it sounds like that as you got into it, this thing kind of created a life of its own, and you started really talking about not just the Cubs and the players, but really the whole Cub experience and the greater Cub community.
That's exactly what happened. When I started out, I approached it as a sports radio host would.
Okay.
And it was kind of just my opinion and structuring different arguments and looking at, you know, statistics, which we all love for baseball. And what I came to find out is there's so many of these Cubs blogs out there. By my estimation, 3,000 or more.
Wow.
Cubs blogs. So I had to separate myself from
all right.
The rest of the Cubs community that was blogging. And so I started to take an approach where having I live just maybe a 10 to 15 minute walk west of the ballpark, and I figured, look, I'm here in Wrigleyville. So many people are coming in from out of the city, out of state, to watch Cubs games, and I'm here every day. Maybe I'll try and share my experience living in Wrigleyville with the rest of this Cubs community. And when I started doing that, the number of hits started going up. The more traffic was brought to my site, and that's where I changed my focus from more of opinions and rumors, and that moved over to more of sharing my own experience living in Wrigleyville.
Now, a lot of times people jump into blogging with both feet. They're very passionate. They have a lot they want to get off their chest. But the idea of maintaining it over a period of time, sometimes people lose their luster for it. But you seem like you've grown, that you started very fiery, but then you stayed passionate about it. How do you stay wanting to make posts and comments on a day in and week out basis?
Well, I had held off on blogging when it first became popular. I wasn't really into it, and then by necessity, having been rubbed out of sports radio, I started out using WordPress as a resume builder, and I thought, well, I'll use this as a resume page.
I'll talk about myself.
Yeah, to talk about myself and develop my writing skills, and that changed over time, as I mentioned before. And I started thinking, Cubs baseball is so big right now, and living here, I can do this year round and make it more about the community, and still have it be about Bullpen Brian and what he's doing, and be different from other Cubs blogs. And that was really the main focus. I see a shot there where I'm wearing a Snuggie in front of Wrigley Field, and for example, I wrote a post about how Snuggie would reverse the curse of the Cubs not winning a world championship, which is
it's going to
a
happen
bunch of
this
baloney.
Year.
But nonetheless, it was fun, and it got a lot of readership. And this particular picture was a point with bullpenbrian.com where I started to focus in more on the community, because I thought, wow, I really haven't done a lot here except have a little bit of fun, put a Snuggie on, took a picture, shared an experience at Wrigley, which so many Cubs fans have had. They can relate to taking a picture in front of the red marquee, and that's really where the focus of Bullpen Brian has gone.
Now, you bring up a very, very good point, because I think that you came out of a oral and an audio and a radio experience, but now you're finding that this whole blogging thing, it can be the same thing. It could have audio content, it could have video content, it could have images and everything. Are you starting to move now into that space of making Bullpen Brian a really multimedia platform that allows you to do all of these different things? So, go around, take pictures, get guest commentary, really turn it into a media platform in its own right.
Yeah, that's the goal. That's the direction it's going in. Again, it didn't start out that way.
Okay.
So I was a little bit behind the curve, and because I did not know a lot about blogging starting out, I ended up buying WordPress for Dummies. That's where I started.
Okay.
So I would say now, about 3 years in, I'm at an intermediate level, and things are going well, and the site's growing, and I'm having fun, and I have a focus.
Now, does anybody help you with it, or do you do all this yourself?
Mainly, I'm doing it on my own, and meeting new people and new faces, and trying to find people that can help me, and just surround Bullpen Brian with a group of people that'll help me take it to the next level, and that's happening slowly. But there's big ideas, more on the way.
Well, it's really phenomenal. I mean, your story of how kind of finding WordPress, and right now you've been hosting content on WordPress. You've been using that platform, and then you got involved with our user community here, and I think you find it's a great community of folks who want to share. People are all different levels of the scale, from newbies and people just finding out about it to guys that are writing back-end code and actually contributing code to the open source project of WordPress itself. So it's really a phenomenal community here in Chicago, and it's great to have you doing what you're doing and having a good time doing it.
Yeah, I'm having a great time. And the Cubs are playing well, and that helps, with the exception of the end of last year. But that's another thing that's helped me out a lot, is that people are into it. And this is a topic that people care about and they're passionate about. And even though I like to have fun, and I'm just blogging from a personal standpoint, my own opinions, I'm still a huge baseball fan, and everybody that I think comes to my site, they're a baseball fan, so we can relate to that. and it's just been terrific.
Well, if you're out there and you're thinking about getting your own blog started, I think you really need to just jump right in. The WordPress platform is a great platform. We have a lot of great experiences in our user group and our user community here in Chicago. We're really got a bunch of meetings and things going on. So you all do like Brian, just jump in the party and start having a good time. Hey, we're going to come back with another blogger, and he's going to tell you what he's doing in this whole WordPress phase. We'll be right back.